Our friend Josh Pate dropped an absolute bombshell regarding the ACC's potential implosion and Florida State potentially leaving that league. We could see news on that sooner than we even thought. We're going to talk about that right after this word from my brand new channel sponsor. Since 1931, the attorneys at Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner have been the voice for victims who have suffered serious injury or death. They have a fierce passion for truth and justice and a sincere compassion for those who have been wronged by others. Whether you have been in a car accident or fighting with an insurance company, or you or a loved one has suffered serious injury or death due to medical negligence, we will ensure your voice is heard loud and clear. Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner will ensure there is justice for all West Virginians because we are your lawyer, your voice. Visit us at yourlawyeryourvoice.com. What is up? Come on in, make yourself comfortable. Let me pour you out a shot of top shelf college football content. So belly yourself up to the bar and enjoy the show today. What is on tap? Well, we are talking about the ACC again. We're talking about Florida State again. But this time we have updated information that our friend, almost everybody in the college football world knows him, Josh Pate over at Late Kick, one of the most popular college football podcasts on YouTube. Many of you may have already seen this, but many of you may have not. I will leave a link to the video that I'm talking about in the description box that you can check it out after this show's over. But what I'm going to do is just go over the highlights of what I took away from Josh's comments. We all remember how, I guess it was a week or so ago, Josh made a comment. Well, first off, he started out making a tweet where he had the water shaking from the Jurassic Park scene, saying things are about to get interesting in the ACC, basically, that there's something big coming. He followed that up in a later show saying, hey, I have people on the legal side of this telling me things, people that may not necessarily care about college football, but they know I do, they know we do, and something big is coming. Well, in this most recent episode, which aired last night, June 30th, he said, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he said basically that it's coming. His sources are telling him, get ready, it's coming. It's coming very soon. And he even mentioned the month of July. Matter of fact, he mentioned it multiple times. He said, July, July, July. He said it 3 times back to back to back and mentioned it more times throughout the show. Something big is about to happen in the month of July. The reason he thinks it revolves around the month of July is, if you recall back when Texas and Oklahoma announced they were departing the Big 12 for the SEC, that happened in the month of July, right around media days. And it seems as if people took notice of that. Other teams, other conferences, others in the industry took notice of that and how well that played out for Texas and Oklahoma. And I guess all the publicity they got from it, how it turned out to be a good move for them to make that announcement when they did. And maybe that's exactly what we're going to see here. And then we have a lot of media days coming up in the month of July. We have Big 12 media days, SEC media days, Big 10, maybe even ACC. We have them all, I think, in the month of July, or at least most of them. But Josh Pate mentioned specifically SEC media days and Big 10 media days. I don't know if he mentioned those just as an examples or if he mentioned them for a reason. I want you to let me know your thoughts on that piece of it in the comments. But the month of July, we could see big announcements coming regarding conference realignment and regarding the ACC, with Florida State being the centerpiece of it. Now, he said, and another takeaway I got from Josh's comments, there will be more teams than Florida State. He said that. But Florida State is, he said, and I quote, the face of it. So they're the face, they're the centerpiece, but there could be other teams. We all know Clemson's probably going to be right behind them. Could others follow? That's what's going to be interesting here. And if they do, where do they go? Now, Josh also talked about the comments made last week by Paul Feinbaum. Now, I wasn't able to do a show on this. I was out of town at a conference for work, so I didn't have time to do a video on it. But Paul Feinbaum made some comments on his show basically saying that he doesn't think the Big Ten is interested in Florida State because they don't meet their academic standards, essentially. Now, we've heard Greg Pflugar say many, many times that the AAU is not a requirement for Big Ten membership. Some people don't agree with that. Some people will argue that it still is by a majority of the presidents. I don't know the answer. But according to Josh, he also disagrees with Paul Feinbaum. He does not think Florida State not being AAU rules them out because he thinks at the end of the day, it all comes down to one thing, and it's money. And yes, maybe the Big Ten doesn't need Florida State because they're already a strong conference. They're already the highest money earner in revenue. But like Josh mentioned, and this goes with the SEC too, it's all about adding inventory. If you have a chance to go out and get the best brand remaining, or well, outside of Notre Dame, the best brand remaining on the board that might be available to you, why would you not go get it? He even compared it to stocking shelves in a store. You stock your shelves with the best inventory you can get to try to defeat the competition. Why would the Big Ten or even the SEC not want to do that? That was Josh's point. So he still thinks the Big Ten is a possibility for Florida State, but he also didn't rule out the SEC. As a matter of fact, he didn't rule out anything. Josh made it clear at the beginning of his monologue or at the beginning of his show that he does not know all the answers. He doesn't know the details, and he even said that he thinks the people pulling the triggers on these moves won't even know all the details yet, which is a very intriguing comment because for those of you who watch Greg Pflugar on a regular basis, he said, does that mean that Florida State could actually announce they're leaving the ACC before they have an official landing spot? Is that something they will do? Now, a lot of people don't think that makes sense. They don't think Florida State would do that because they wouldn't take that risk. And I agree that Florida State probably has not had any direct conversations with any conferences, but they could have had back channel conversations, third-party conversations that gives them confidence to know that, hey, if we do this, if we pull the trigger and announce we're leaving the ACC, we are almost assured to find a home in either the SEC or the Big Ten. I think they're confident in that. And even if they're not, could they go independent for a year or two until they find a home? That's something that I've heard mentioned in other shows. Greg even mentioned it briefly on one of his recent shows. Could they use private equity money to play it, to be independent and get their own media deal with a network? Maybe they've been talking to networks behind the scenes about getting their own deal to be independent. That's something that's on the table. Another thing that has been rumored out there is this idea of an the Magnificent Seven that we all heard, the 7 teams that met a couple of years ago to discuss a potential way out of the ACC. Along with Florida State, you had Clemson, you had UNC, NC State, Virginia Tech, Virginia, and I think Miami was the 7th school. They all got together and talked about, hey, can we get out of this grant of rights? Could there be an implosion that way where all these 7 schools plus one more votes to get out at the same time to basically dissolve the conference? Now, Greg Pflugar doesn't think it's possible, and he even made a point on Twitter this morning or earlier today to say, hey, SMU is officially a member of the conference as of today, July 1. Therefore, that dissolution argument may not hold anymore. Now you have to have one more team, especially if Cal and Stanford are considered official members on July 1. Now, I don't know. It's my understanding they won't be official members until August 1. So maybe you could still get an 8-team majority here to dissolve the conference if that's the plan. But if that was going to happen, I feel like they would have done it prior to SMU being accepted into the league. But that's just me. And the last thing I want to touch on that was a takeaway for me is that at the end of Josh's show, or not at the end of the show, but at the end of his monologue about this topic, he mentioned the Big 12 could benefit from this. He didn't talk about the Big 12 a lot. He just made that one quick comment, basically in passing at the end. Then he moved on to another topic. And what he means by that, in my opinion, is, hey, this thing's probably going to be bigger than just Florida State. Yes, Florida State's the face of it. Yes, they're the centerpiece. They're the one getting most of the media attention because they have been the loudest and they were the first one to file a lawsuit against the ACC. So, yes, they're the centerpiece, and they don't seem to mind being the centerpiece. But he seems to think it could be bigger than this. Now, I don't think Josh would be using words or using the image of the water shaking and some of the terminology he's used in talking about this the last couple of weeks. I don't think he would be using it if he was just talking about Florida State leaving the league, even if he was talking about just Florida State and Clemson. I think this could be much, much bigger than that. Again, is it dissolution? Probably not. But are we going to see, like Brett McMurphy said in an interview he did several weeks ago, could we see a Conga line of teams leaving the ACC conference for other conferences. And back to what I did a video on, which, by the way, I'll link to at the end. What I did a video on a few days ago. Could the Big 12 be trying to get private equity money to help buy teams into their league, even if they have a chance to buy Florida State and Clemson into the Big 12, which I think is very, very, very unlikely. But maybe they use it to go grab Louisville and Virginia Tech and Pitt. Again, it could just be a numbers game for Brett Yormark and the Big 12. Maybe they want to grab up as many teams as they possibly can. Going back to what Josh Pate said earlier in the show, inventory. Maybe they just need inventory. The more inventory you get, the more valuable inventory you get, the harder it will be to leave your conference behind as we move into this potential, what everybody's talking about being a power 2, whatever. Maybe you make it a power 3. You want to make sure you keep your seat at the table, maybe getting as many schools in the fold as you can, as many markets as you can, and as many good brands as you can is a way the Big 12 can do that and by taking advantage of these issues going on in the ACC, just like they did with the issues in the Pac. I want to hear your thoughts. What are your thoughts about Josh Pate's comments about the month of July? Look, we could see fireworks outside of just the 4th of July, right? We could see fireworks surrounding the ACC, their potential implosion, or at least we could get announcements from Florida State and maybe even Clemson that they're planning to leave the league, and we could get that here anytime. It's July 1 as I record this. We could get it anytime between now and the end of the month. There's an August 15th date looming out there to where I think Florida State, if they want to play in another league by the year 2025, they have to announce by August 15th of this year. Add that into the fact that media days are going on now. It's the off season. That's usually when things start happening around realignment. It would make sense for them to make that announcement in the month of July. But I want to know what you think in the comment section. Also want to give shout outs to my 4 VIP members of this episode: Cody Cutright, Brad Cheney, Jeremy Croy, and Vernon Sheldon Witter. Thank you all for your VIP memberships. If you want to be a paid VIP member, hit the join button below or go check out the join button on my channel homepage. Also, you can go to my description box. You see all kinds of ways you can support me here on the show. You can buy your own merch, buy yourself some Fanatics gear with the link in my description box, buy yourself some On It NIL trading cards to support your favorite student athletes. I'll make a small commission from any of those. Or if you want to make a one-time donation to my channel, you can do it through Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. All of that is there in the description box. Again, if you need a personal injury attorney and you're in the state of West Virginia or Virginia, don't forget to go check out my new channel partner, Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner. I will leave a link to their website in the description as well. Or you can call the number posted on the screen, 304-999-HURT, HURT. Thanks for tuning into this episode. Don't forget about the one I posted in the corner. Have a top shelf day and Q Country Roads.